Hey guys, this is my second time recording this video because it didn't turn out very well on the first time. I might have messed up the white balance. So we're gonna give another crack at it. But in this video, it's a really exciting, kind of mixed emotions kind of day. Just a few days ago, my wife and I finished paying off our consumer debt. Yeah! No consumer debt! But around the same time that was happening, that's when all this COVID-19 stuff started. And I really started to have some mixed feelings about sharing some of this because at the time that we're finally at this place where we've managed to pay off our debt is at a time where some other people are having some really hard times financially. And I want to be sensitive to those things and to those people. So what I thought I could do is, in being able to share this with you, I want to share you some of my tips that my wife and I did to manage to pay off all the debt that we have and to get to the place that we got. Because this is something my wife and I did voluntarily. We made a lot of cuts, we made a lot of restrictions on our life, but now it's coming into being more mandatory for some people because of layoffs and other things that may have happened. So I just want to share some of my tips to hopefully help people in this time when, things are really uncertain. We're in an age of layoffs and where who knows what's going to happen over the next couple weeks. But also, these are tips that can help anybody at any time, at any stage, wherever you may be. And so I just want to give you some of these and hopefully it helps. So the first thing, and I cannot stress this enough, that this is probably one of the most important steps, that is make a budget. And I know you've probably heard this 100 times from 100 different people, and you're just thinking, oh yeah, I get it, make a budget. What's so great about it? Everything. There's so much that actually hinges on making a budget that sets the groundwork for everything else moving forward. Making a budget is what helped my wife and I identify so many areas that we were either overspending or didn't need to be spending at all. And we were able to make cuts and changes in those places to save us money and to help us put that money to better use in other areas. Making a budget helped my wife and I identify 3 key things that we were not doing well with our spending. The first was unneeded spending on fees. And so what I mean by that is NSF fees. So I get paid semi-monthly, which is a little different than most people, but how that works is I get paid really at the beginning of the month and at the middle of the month. It's a fixed payment schedule. So we had so many of our bills that were front end loaded at the beginning of the month. Some of them are automatic withdrawals and other of them manual payments still. But what was happening is we were overspending on that first paycheck at the beginning of the month. And then what would end up happening is when some other automated withdrawals would come through, it would hit NSF. And I don't know about your financial institution, but the one I'm a part of, it's about $40 to $45 for an NSF fee. And that's $40 wasted. Just absolutely wasted. No benefit whatsoever. And the reason for that was we just weren't spacing our bills well. And so what we did is we went through when all of our bills came out, either automatic or manual payments we were doing, and we assigned them to different paychecks. And that helped us. Since then, we haven't had any NSF fees. And we've managed to avoid a significant amount of overdraft fees as well. And so I would strongly encourage you to take a look at that and maybe see if there's a way that you can reassign your bills to avoid any unnecessary fees like overdraft or NSF. The next thing that it helped us do was to identify areas that we were overspending. So when we went through and analyzed all of our bills, we found a couple key areas that we didn't need to be spending as much as we were. So one of those things was car insurance. I was spending approximately $250 on car insurance just for me on my car. That's crazy high for somebody my age. And so what I did is I went through and I talked to a couple different brokers, and I managed to get a hold of a broker that some family was a part of, and I got a great deal. I managed to cut my car insurance from $250 to $150. Could I maybe get a better rate? Maybe if I went back and tried again. But at the time, that was $100 a month. Instantly, we started to save just by switching car insurance. I'm not trying to sell you car insurance. I'm not sponsored by anything, but I'm just saying, just seeing how much we were overspending led to that change. Another similar change was phone bills. When we were actually going over our phone bill, we were spending close to $200 a month on 2 phones, just my wife and I, on 2 phones. And we realized that was way over than what we needed to be spending. And so luckily, the company I work for has an agreement with Rogers that you can get some business lines. And so we were able to do that. And I was able to get some good deals for the 2 of us, my wife and I. And now we're spending about $130 a month, taxes included. And that's both of us having pretty much unlimited everything and about 6 to 7 gigs of data. And so this is why a budget is key. It helps you find all these areas that you're spending where you don't need to be. And at a time where things are so tight to begin with, those are the things you got to start with. Those are the things you got to get rid of first. Now, one of the next sacrifices my wife and I made is we went down to one car. And now I know that might not be doable for everybody, and it was definitely tough for us, but it saved us a lot of money. You know, it can be very convenient having two vehicles, and especially as somebody who has two kids, having two vehicles was so helpful for appointments, for me going to work, and my wife being able to just make any appointments she needed to. But there was a car loan on her car, and there was her car insurance and her gas that she was paying for, and that wasn't a ton of additional money that we were spending that we needed and we had to use better. So we sold her car, canceled the insurance, and we went down to one vehicle. And it was tough. It was tough making that switch, but we managed to save a lot of money because of it. And so if possible, and if you are in a relationship or in a situation where that's the case, maybe consider trying to go down to one vehicle for this time. Again, let me just reiterate, all my advice here is not the end all be all, and I'm no expert. I'm just listing off the things that were helpful for my wife and I. The next thing my wife and I did is we reduced our rent. Now, we were lucky enough that my in-laws had just renovated their basement into a basement apartment, and they were kind enough to let my wife and I move in with our two kids for a very, very small amount of money. And we were able to significantly drop our rent. So we were able to take that money and do some additional spending as well. Now, that's not going to be the case for everybody. That's probably not going to be the case for most people. But what I'm trying to encourage there is maybe look at how much you're spending on rent a month and the place that you're living in, and maybe it's not quite what you need right now. Maybe you're overspending a little bit on rent and in space that you don't really need at a time where things might be more tight financially. The ultimate goal for my wife and I is to get to a point where we can purchase our own home. And so if that meant we needed to reduce the space that we were living in, live in tight quarters, and make those sacrifices to make that happen, that's what we were willing to do. Now, I get not everybody can do that, and maybe you've already got a place that's actually a really good rental rate in your area and you can't reduce that. That's great. That's great that you're already at that level. But if for those of you who maybe you're spending or living a little bit outside of your means, maybe take some time and reevaluate a little bit and see if the place that you're living in is the place you need to be. There's a lot of people in the kitchen now, so there might be some noise for the rest of this video. The next thing we did was suspend non-essential bill payments. So we have government student loans, both my wife and I. And what we were able to do was if you have a certain income level with a certain number of dependents, you can actually suspend your student loan temporarily from being in repayment. That can help you kind of save and use the money elsewhere for more crucial things. And so we did that. We temporarily suspended those payments so we could take what we would be paying on those and put it to somewhere else. Last thing you need to do is start your debt snowball. Now, I did not make this up. I'm not some kind of financial guru or expert who put this together, but that's the technique that my wife and I use that really helped us speed up debt repayment. So I heard this term originally from an individual named Dave Ramsey. He's very well known in a lot of the financial world for being very passionate about getting people out of debt and doing those things, which I think is awesome. I've learned a lot from a lot of his videos. If you get a chance, you should watch them if you haven't already. But what that is where you take all of your debt and all the different payments that you'd be making and set them all to the minimum balance that you'd be paying on those debt. Anything extra you have available, you then use to pay off your smallest debt. So as soon as you pay that off, you then take what the payment would be on that smallest debt, plus what you've been paying on it, and you roll it into the next one. And then after you've paid that one off, you then roll it into the next one. And what starts to happen is as you free up money that were debt payments, you then put them to the next debt. And so you can start to compound the amount you're paying off month to month. And that was huge for my wife and I when we started doing that. If you're in a situation that you have the equity available to do something like that, I would strongly encourage you to start that debt snowball. Debt repayment snowball. I don't want you to snowball into debt. That's terrible. Please don't do that. But the reason I wanted to share some of these things with you is because after you actually put these things into place, you'd be surprised about the amount of change that you can make. My wife and I probably wasted about a year of our time being in this living arrangement, in this basement, not actually making the progress that we could because we weren't budgeting well, we weren't doing our debt repayment, we weren't doing the debt snowball or anything like that. We wasted time. And now, as soon as we started doing that 6 months later, we're debt free. We would have been debt free a lot sooner and potentially even have some of the residual student debt we have gone. if we had been starting farther back, but we'll get through that soon enough. But our ultimate goal for this was we want to save up for a down payment ourselves and move into our home ourselves. And so that's why we made the sacrifices we did, so we can have the amount saved up to get there. Now, other people's motives right now may be different. Maybe it's you just need to find the money to get through the next couple months while these happen. Maybe you just got laid off recently, and I'm sorry if that's you. But using these techniques and trimming the fat, as it were, on your expenses is the best way to get through hard times like this. And then in the future, when you have more of that cash flow, build up an emergency fund. An emergency fund is crucial for times just like this. So instead of putting yourself deeper in debt, you can pull on that amount of cash you've set aside to do that. For those of you who don't know, an emergency fund is just going to be a small savings account of liquid cash that you have available for circumstances like this. The amount that gets estimated by other professionals, not me, by professionals, is about 3 to 6 months of expenses. So when we kind of get through this phase, I would look at doing that. Something else I would encourage people during this time is there's a lot of government programs to assist with a lot of these changes and a lot of these layoffs. So as soon as you finish watching this video, go look at what those programs are. That's literally wasted money if you don't get a hold of that. It's free money that they're trying to give out to individuals who are struggling to get through this hard time. And so having that can really change a lot and bring a lot of relief for people. So look up those programs, see what you qualify for, and get going. Anyways, that's some of these tips are kind of helpful. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one.